Tonight let us begin with something simple, not a lesson, not a message to understand, just a quiet reflection placed gently at the edge of the night. You do not need to arrive anywhere. You do not need to figure anything out. You do not need to prepare yourself for what comes next. For now, it is enough to notice that you are here, breathing, resting, being supported by whatever is holding you in this moment. There is nothing you need to respond to, nothing you need to finish, nothing waiting for an answer. The day has already done its work, and for a while you are allowed to step out of it. Let the body settle in the way it naturally chooses. There is no correct position, no ideal posture, no perfect way to lie down. The body has been resting far longer than the mind has been thinking. It already knows how to soften. Notice where the body meets the world, the surface beneath you, the quiet pressure of gravity, the simple fact that you are being held without effort. You do not have to adjust anything. You do not have to make this moment better. You only have to let it be enough. Now notice the breath, not to control it, not to deepen it, not to guide it into any particular rhythm, just to feel that it is happening on its own. Inhale arrives, exhale leaves, a soft appearing, a soft releasing. As the breath moves in, notice the space it creates, a gentle widening inside the chest, a small opening where nothing is being forced. As the breath moves out, notice how the body naturally follows, sinking a little more into whatever is supporting you, letting go without being told to. Nothing needs to be held together tonight. Nothing needs to be managed. Nothing needs to stay alert. If the mind brings fragments of the day, you do not need to push them away. Images, voices, unfinished moments that pretend they are still important. Let them pass. The way clouds pass across a wide, dark sky. Nothing is wrong with the clouds, but you do not need to ride them anywhere. There is a quieter kind of listening now, not listening for meaning, not listening for instruction, not listening for what comes next, just letting sound and silence exist on their own. The room has its own rhythm, so does the night, so does your body. You do not need to supervise any of it. Beneath thought, beneath effort, there is a stillness that has always been present, not something you create, not something you achieve, something that reveals itself when nothing is being forced. Long before words were formed, long before names and stories, there was simply space, open, unmeasured, unclaimed, not empty, but quietly alive. Even in what seems like silence, there is a subtle movement, a gentle stirring beneath stillness, a quiet activity that does not disturb the calm. You do not need to imagine it clearly. You only need to sense that silence can be full without being loud. In that vast openness, nothing hurried to become something. There was no urgency, no destination, no need to prove existence by shining, only a deep patience, as if the universe itself was content to wait. You may feel a trace of that patience now, a slowing that does not resist time, but gently steps aside from it. Moments begin to stretch, edges soften. The sharpness of attention starts to blur. This is not sleep yet. This is the space before it, the place where effort loosens and awareness widens without instruction. You do not need to cross this threshold. You only need to rest near it. Notice how the body responds when it no longer has to prepare. The jaw loosens, the shoulders drop, the space behind the eyes grows dimmer, softer, less defined. You are not losing awareness. You are widening it. There is a difference. Awareness does not disappear when you rest. It simply stops pointing so sharply. It spreads. It becomes like a low light filling a room without casting shadows. Breath moves, weight settles, and time begins to feel less like a line and more like a quiet field. In this field, nothing demands your attention. Nothing pulls you forward. Nothing asks you to remember who you are or what you have done. You are allowed to be unnamed here. If you notice small places of tension, do not fight them. Do not correct them. Simply soften around them. Give them room. Tightness often loosens when it no longer feels judged, when it is allowed to exist without being pushed away. So let everything be allowed, the tiredness, the drifting, the unfinished edges of the day. Little by little, the mind will choose quiet because quiet is easier. This is only the beginning. There is no need to go further yet. Stay here a little longer, in this gentle pause, in this wide, patient quiet. The night has plenty of room to continue. You are still here. Nothing has moved too far. Nothing has deepened too quickly. This quiet you are resting in does not rush. It does not pull you forward. It simply remains steady and unhurried. As the body continues to settle, you may begin to notice that stillness itself has a certain texture. Not a sound, not a motion you can point to, just a subtle sense that quiet is not flat and not empty. Even in the calmest moments, there is a gentle presence beneath the surface, something continuous, like a slow tide moving far below sight. You do not need to search for it. If you try to look directly, it slips into effort. But when attention loosens, it becomes easier to feel. The breath is a natural place to notice this. Not the breath you shape, but the breath that happens when nothing interferes. Inhale arrives, exhale leaves. Between them, there is a small pause. That pause is not empty, it is balanced. A moment where nothing is added and nothing is taken away. Stay near that feeling without trying to hold it. The body understands this kind of space before the mind does. Muscles soften into it. Signals slow. The nervous system recognizes it as something safe and familiar. This is a stillness that does not require silence. Sounds may still appear. The voice you are hearing, a distant noise, the faint movement of air. None of these disturb it. They pass through, the way ripples pass across deep water without changing what lies below. There is a common idea that emptiness means absence, that when things are quiet, nothing is happening, but quiet can be active without being busy, alive without being loud. You may sense this now as a gentle hum beneath awareness, not a vibration you hear, but a steadiness you feel holding everything together. The longer you remain here, the less you need to label it. Words become unnecessary. Descriptions begin to fade. There is no need to decide what this stillness is, no need to connect it to a belief or explanation. No need to turn it into meaning. Explanation belongs to effort, and effort is already loosening. Let the body continue to grow familiar with this softness. Notice how weight settles more evenly, how the breath becomes less noticeable, how attention widens without stretching. Nothing is being taken away. Nothing is fading too soon. Nothing is disappearing. You are simply becoming aware of something that has always been present beneath movement and thought. In nature, there are places where motion slows but never fully stops. Deep water, still forests at night, wide skies before dawn. These places feel calm, yet everything remains alive. Growth continues quietly. Change happens without display. Your inner experience is moving in the same direction now, not toward sleep yet, just toward depth and steadiness. If thoughts return, let them return. They do not interrupt anything. They float at the surface while the quiet below remains unchanged. There is no need to follow them, no need to judge them. They can exist without asking for a response. The body continues to listen. The heart continues to beat in its own unhurried way. The breath continues to rise and fall without instruction. All of this is happening inside the same open field of stillness. You may notice that the edges of attention are becoming less sharp, not blurred in a troubling way, just softened as if focus no longer needs to gather in one place. This softening is natural. It is what happens when nothing needs to be watched closely. When vigilance is no longer required, time may begin to feel different here, less like something moving forward, more like something spreading out, wide enough to rest inside. You do not need to measure it. You do not need to track it. The night keeps time in its own way. The rhythm you are entering does not belong to effort. It belongs to continuation, to quiet persistence, to balance without tension. Stay with this sense of quiet presence a little longer, not waiting for change, not expecting anything new, just resting in the gentle activity of stillness as it continues on its own. As you remain in this quiet, something subtle begins to reveal itself, not as a change you need to notice, but as a feeling that has been present all along. Stillness is not a frozen state. It is not a pause that stops movement. It is a place where movement becomes gentle enough to rest inside itself. If you stay with this experience, you may sense that things are quietly appearing and fading, not dramatically, not in a way that calls attention to itself, just a soft coming and going that does not disturb the calm. The breath shows this clearly. Each inhale arrives without announcement. Each exhale leaves without taking anything with it. Nothing is lost when it goes. Nothing is gained when it returns. Between these movements, there is continuity. The breath changes, but the space it moves through remains. It is the same with sensation. Warmth shifts, pressure shifts, awareness remains open. This gentle appearing and dissolving is happening everywhere. Thoughts arise, they linger briefly, then they soften and pass. Not because they are pushed away, but because they do not need to stay. You do not have to follow these movements. You do not have to track what comes next. You can allow experience to unfold without commentary. There is a deep ease in letting things come and go on their own. Nothing needs to be held in place. Nothing needs to be secured. The effort to maintain shape can rest. In this kind of quiet, change does not feel threatening. It feels natural, like watching light shift across a wall as evening deepens. The room remains the same, even as shadows move. You may begin to notice that what you usually think of as solid is actually quite fluid. Sensations change texture, attention drifts, the sense of time loosens its grip. None of this needs to be understood. Understanding would only tighten the experience. Here, it is enough to feel how gently everything is allowed to move. There is no sharp boundary between what is present and what has just faded. The transition is soft, almost unnoticeable, like waves blending into one another on a calm shore. This is not disappearance. It is not loss. It is a quiet circulation where nothing needs to stay fixed in order to exist. Your body already trusts this process. Cells renew themselves without instruction. Breath continues without planning. The heart adjusts its rhythm without asking permission. You are resting inside the same kind of natural intelligence now, an intelligence that does not hurry, that does not insist, that allows change without resistance. If the mind tries to name what is happening, you can let those names dissolve. They are not wrong. They are simply unnecessary. Experience does not require labels in order to continue. It flows easily without them, quieter, smoother. You may notice moments where awareness feels thinner, less defined, as if it is spreading out instead of focusing inward or outward. This is not a problem. It is a sign that effort is releasing. In this state, even the idea of holding attention becomes unnecessary. Attention rests where it is, present but not sharp, aware but not tense. There is nothing you need to remember from this, nothing you need to take with you. The value of this experience is not in keeping it, but in letting it pass through. As things continue to appear and fade, the quiet beneath them remains unchanged, reliable, stable, wide enough to hold every movement without being disturbed. You may feel more space around sensations now, more room around thoughts, more openness around the sense of being here. This openness is not something new. It has always been present, quietly supporting each moment as it came and went. Resting here, you may begin to sense that effort is no longer required to stay present. Presence happens on its own, like breathing, like listening without trying. Let this gentle circulation continue, not moving towards sleep yet, just allowing experience to soften, shift, and settle in its own way. Remain here as things come and go, nothing to manage, nothing to resist, nothing to complete. The quiet is deep enough to hold all of it. As this gentle circulation continues, you may begin to notice a deeper kind of easing, not a change that announces itself, but a shift in how everything is being held. The body feels present, yet it no longer insists on definition. It remains where it is, but it does not ask to be checked or adjusted. There is no impulse to correct posture or refine sensation. Arms and legs exist without commentary. The face softens without instruction. The jaw rests. The tongue settles naturally as if it has finished its work. Breath continues to move, but it feels farther away now, not distant in a troubling way, simply less central, as if breathing no longer needs to be supervised in order to continue. This is where boundaries begin to soften more clearly, not suddenly, not completely, just enough that the effort of separation starts to fade. The line between the body and the space around it grows less precise. The place where skin meets air no longer feels sharp or defined. Sensation spreads outward instead of remaining contained. Nothing is dissolving, nothing is disappearing. Form is simply no longer working so hard to remain separate from space. You may notice that the sense of being located inside the body has loosened. Awareness is no longer anchored behind the eyes or centered in the chest. It is not fixed in any one place. It feels more like a field, wide, even, quietly present everywhere at once. In this field, sensations appear without needing interpretation. Warmth is simply warmth. Heaviness is simply heaviness. There is no urge to decide what they mean or what should happen next. This is not numbness. Experience remains vivid, but less personal. It is clarity without sharp edges. The body is still here, but it no longer demands recognition, like a familiar room that does not need to be described in order to be known. Presence does not depend on attention anymore. In Buddhist language, there is a teaching that points gently toward this experience. It says that form and openness are not separate, that what appears solid is already resting within space. This is not something you need to understand conceptually. You are feeling it directly now. Form is present. Openness is present. They are not competing. They are not canceling each other out. They are cooperating quietly without effort. The body rests inside space. Thought rests inside awareness. Sound rests inside silence. Nothing needs to push against anything else in order to exist. Everything is supported simply by being allowed. And because it is allowed, effort continues to drain away. Not because you are doing something correctly, but because effort is no longer required here. There is nothing left to stabilize, nothing left to maintain. The system has found its balance on its own. You may notice that time feels even less defined now. Moments do not line up neatly. They overlap and blur together. The sense of sequence loosens its grip. You may not know how long you have been resting in this way, and that uncertainty feels gentle rather than disturbing. It asks nothing of you. In this softened state, awareness no longer moves toward experience. Experience comes and goes within awareness without friction. Nothing sticks. Nothing needs to be released. The sense of me and what I am noticing grows quieter, not erased, just less emphasized, like a decision not to draw sharp lines where they are no longer useful. This is the kind of ease that many traditions point toward, not excitement, not pleasure, just a deep neutrality that feels stable and safe. You do not need to remain alert for what comes next. Nothing surprising is waiting. The quiet simply deepens by continuing to do nothing at all. If a thought appears, it floats briefly and fades. If a sensation shifts, it does so without needing attention. Everything is allowed to come and go without consequence. The body understands this state instinctively. It recognizes it as rest. Not the rest of distraction, but the rest of not needing to define itself. You may feel heavier now, but not weighed down, more grounded, more settled, as if gravity itself has become kinder and more supportive. Muscles remain loose because there is no reason for them to tighten again. Breath continues because it always does. Awareness remains because nothing is pulling it away. Form and openness are resting together now, not as an idea, not as a concept, but as a lived experience that does not need explanation. Remain here a little longer, not moving forward, not falling back, simply resting in this quiet cooperation between what appears and the space that holds it. The night is wide enough to continue carrying you. As this quiet balance settles more deeply, another feeling may begin to appear, a sense that not everything needs to be decided, a sense that not everything needs to be known. For much of the day, the mind tries to predict what comes next. It plans, it anticipates, it searches for certainty as a way to stay safe. But here, in this softened state, certainty is no longer required. Nothing is asking to be predicted. Nothing is asking to be controlled. You may begin to feel how gentle it is when the future is allowed to remain undefined, not unclear in a worrying way, just open. The body responds to this openness immediately. Muscles release a little more. Breath grows quieter. The subtle tension of waiting begins to dissolve. There is a quiet relief in realizing that nothing important depends on your next thought. Nothing depends on choosing the right interpretation. Nothing depends on staying alert. Experience continues without supervision. Breath continues. Heartbeat continues. The night continues. You do not have to keep track of any of it. In this space, not knowing becomes gentle. It is no longer a problem to solve. It is simply the natural condition of rest. The mind may still offer questions. What is happening? How deep this is? Whether sleep is close? You do not need to answer these questions. They can appear and fade like everything else. They do not carry urgency anymore. There is a kind of wisdom in allowing things to remain unfinished, a wisdom older than thought, a wisdom that understands that life does not require constant clarity in order to continue. You may notice now that the urge to understand is weakening. Not because understanding is wrong, but because it is unnecessary in this moment. Here, experience does not need to be explained to be complete. It simply unfolds. The body trusts this more easily than the mind does. It knows how to rest without instructions. It knows how to release without being told when. Signals slow. Responses soften. The nervous system settles into a rhythm that does not require attention. This rhythm is not new. It has always been present beneath effort and alertness. It becomes noticeable only when effort steps aside. You may feel how reassuring it is to let things remain undecided, to not resolve the day, to not prepare for tomorrow. The future can remain open without becoming threatening. In this state, openness feels supportive rather than uncertain. Time itself begins to feel less directional. There is no strong sense of moving towards something. Moments arrive and pass without lining up into a sequence. You may not know where one moment ends and the next begins. That softness is part of the rest. Nothing needs to be completed before you can relax further. Nothing needs to be concluded. Nothing needs to reach a final shape. Even the sense of self becomes quieter here, not gone, just less involved in managing experience. Awareness remains, but it no longer stands at the center, directing attention. It rests alongside what is happening rather than above it. This is where uncertainty transforms. It is no longer something to fear. It becomes space. Space where the body can soften. Space where the mind can stop reaching. Space where experience can unfold without commentary. You may notice how little effort is required now to remain present. Presence is no longer something you do. It is something that is already happening. If a thought arises asking whether this is correct, you can let that thought pass. Correctness belongs to effort, and effort has already done enough for today. The night does not ask you to understand it. It does not ask you to participate. It simply holds everything as it is. Breath moves quietly. The body remains heavy and supported. Awareness stays wide and unstrained. There is no task hidden in this moment, no insight you must carry forward, no meaning you must extract. Rest does not require explanation. It only requires permission, and permission has already been given. You can feel now how the absence of certainty feels like ease, how not knowing feels like rest, how openness feels like safety rather than risk. Nothing is missing. Nothing is unresolved in a way that matters. Everything needed for this moment is already present. Remain here as uncertainty continues to soften into calm, as openness continues to support without effort, as the night quietly carries you forward without asking anything in return. As the night continues to hold you, the sense of outline begins to thin even more, not disappearing, but becoming less important to maintain. The body is still here, steady and supported, but it no longer insists on being clearly defined. It has done enough for today, and there is no need for it to present itself with sharp edges or clear boundaries anymore. It does not need to prove where it begins or where it ends. It is allowed to rest as it is. Arms and legs remain present, but they feel quieter now, not numb and not gone, simply less interested in announcing their position. They no longer ask for attention or confirmation. They are content to exist without commentary. The face softens further, almost without being noticed. The jaw stays loose. The tongue rests naturally, no longer held in place by habit. The small muscles around the eyes stop working. The forehead smooths on its own. Expression fades because it is no longer needed. Breath continues to move, but it no longer feels central to experience. It happens somewhere in the background, steady and reliable. Sometimes you notice it, and sometimes you do not. Nothing changes when it slips out of awareness. The breath does not require observation in order to continue. It knows what to do without supervision. This is where effort falls away in subtler layers, not all at once and not dramatically, just enough that nothing feels held tightly anymore. The body stops making small adjustments, not because it is forced to be still, but because it has found a place where adjustment is no longer necessary. There is no need to shift or correct or refine anything. Stillness arrives naturally when nothing is being managed. You may begin to notice that the sense of time is changing again. Moments no longer arrive in a neat sequence. They overlap and blend into one another. The idea of before and after starts to loosen. The mind may attempt to count or track time for a moment, then forgets to continue. You may not know how long you have been here. You may not know whether anything has changed. That uncertainty feels neutral, almost kind. It asks nothing of you and demands no response. Awareness no longer reaches outward toward experience. It no longer turns inward either. It rests where it is, without direction and without focus. This resting is quiet, not sleepy yet and not alert, just settled in a way that does not require effort. Sensations continue to appear as they always have. Warmth in the body, heaviness where you are supported, soft pressure where the body meets the surface beneath it, the faint sense of temperature in the room, the gentle presence of fabric against skin. None of these sensations ask to be interpreted. They exist without needing to mean anything. They are simply allowed to be present. This is a different kind of clarity, not the clarity of sharp focus or attention. It is the clarity that comes from not needing to decide. Experience is clear because nothing is being argued with, nothing is being evaluated, nothing is being pushed away or pulled closer. If a thought arises, it feels distant now, muted, as if heard from another room. It does not pull you with it. It does not grow into a story or a plan. It arrives as a fragment and fades before it can gather momentum. The space around each thought is wider than the thought itself. That space remains even after the thought disappears. You can rest in that space without effort. You may notice that attention itself feels heavier, not strained or tense, but grounded, as if it has found a place where it no longer needs to move. This is not a loss of awareness. It is a redistribution, awareness spreading out rather than pointing at any one thing. It no longer gathers into a bright center. It becomes like a dim light filling a room evenly. Nothing is highlighted and nothing is ignored. In this state, there is nothing to monitor, nothing to track, nothing to correct. The mind does not need to keep watch. The body does not need to report its condition. The system is quiet enough to continue on its own. You may sense a gentle downward tendency now, not a pull you must follow, and not a fall you need to prepare for, just an invitation toward deeper rest, a direction that feels more natural than effort, not yet a descent and not yet a surrender. Just the sense that sinking further will soon be easier than staying near the surface. You do not have to decide when that happens. The body will move when it is ready. The mind does not need to choose the moment. Everything is already slowing in its own way. Breath, heartbeat, the subtle movements of attention, the small impulses to plan or evaluate. All of them are losing strength. All of them are becoming unnecessary. There is no urgency in this slowing. Nothing is late. Nothing is ahead of schedule. You are exactly where you need to be for this moment to continue naturally. Remain here as the edges continue to soften, as time continues to loosen, as effort continues to drain away without being asked. The night is patient, and there is no need to move before it is ready. As everything continues to slow, the sense of downward movement becomes clearer, not a falling and not a loss of control, more like a gentle yielding to something that has always been waiting beneath effort. The body understands this movement instinctively. It does not resist it. It does not question it. It allows itself to be carried a little more deeply without needing to know where it is going. There is no edge to cross and no moment you need to recognize. The transition happens gradually without announcement, so quietly that part of you may not notice it happening at all. The weight of the body feels more settled now, not heavier in a way that presses, but heavier in a way that reassures, as if gravity itself has softened and become supportive rather than demanding. The surface beneath you feels dependable. It does not shift. It does not ask anything of you. It holds you without effort and without condition. Breath continues to move, but it is barely noticeable now. It rises and falls quietly somewhere beneath awareness. You may forget it entirely for a while, then notice it again without needing to follow it. Breathing no longer feels like something you're doing. It feels like something that is simply continuing. Awareness remains present, but it no longer feels centered anywhere. It is not behind the eyes. It is not anchored in the chest. It spreads evenly, without preference and without direction. In this spreading, words begin to lose their importance, not because they disappear, but because they no longer need to guide experience. Meaning loosens its grip. Understanding steps aside. Sound may still reach you, the voice you are hearing, the faint presence of the room. None of it pulls attention forward. Sound arrives and fades inside the same quiet field without leaving a trace. Even listening has softened now. There is no effort to receive sound, no attempt to hold on to meaning. Sound is simply allowed to pass through awareness and dissolve. The mind is quieter, not because it has been silenced, but because it has stopped trying to organize what is happening. Thoughts may still arise, but they feel unfinished. They lose momentum before they can form a direction or a story. Nothing needs to be concluded. Nothing needs to be understood. There is no summary waiting to be reached. The body continues its slow descent into rest. Muscles remain loose. Signals slow further. The sense of internal movement becomes minimal, almost transparent. You may feel as though you're sinking without moving, resting deeper without going anywhere, settling into a layer of quiet that feels more stable than effort ever did. Time feels even less structured here. Moments no longer separate clearly. They blend into one another like soft shadows at night. There is no reason to measure or track them. The sense of self grows quieter again, not erased and not removed, simply less involved. There is no longer a strong feeling of someone resting. There is just rest happening. This is not something you need to hold on to. It cannot be lost. It is present simply because nothing is interfering with it. The night continues to support this descent. It does not rush you, it does not delay you, it moves at exactly the pace required for rest to deepen naturally. If awareness drifts, it is allowed. If it steadies, that is allowed too. There is no preferred direction anymore. The body no longer signals the need to stay alert. The mind no longer checks for what comes next. Everything necessary for this moment is already in place. You may notice that effort feels distant now, like something you used earlier in the day, but no longer need to carry. It has served its purpose and can remain where it is. Rest does not require attention. It deepens on its own when nothing interrupts it. The quiet you are resting in now is wide enough to hold everything that remains. Nothing is excluded. Nothing needs to be removed. And now words themselves can begin to step back. They have brought you as far as they need to go. They no longer need to guide or explain. In many traditions, when words fall silent, sound remains. Not sound as meaning, but sound as presence. Sound that does not ask to be understood. Sound that carries rhythm, continuity, and calm. In a moment, the voice you are hearing will give way to another kind of sound. A sound that has been recited and carried for centuries, not as instruction and not as belief, simply as vibration, breath, and flow. You do not need to listen closely. You do not need to follow the words. You do not need to stay awake for them. Let the sound arrive on its own. Let it pass through awareness the way breath does. Let it continue even if attention fades. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to prepare, only to remain as you are and allow sound to carry what remains of the night. The words can rest now. The body can rest now. Awareness can rest now. And the sound will continue. There is nothing else you need to do. Sometimes peace is not something we must learn. It is something we remember. The world pulls us outward toward goals, toward noise, toward endless motion. But when the heart grows quiet, we begin to sense a deeper rhythm beneath it all, a rhythm that has always been waiting, softly calling us home. This quiet home lives inside you, but it can be easy to forget. That is why Gassho exists, not to add anything new, but to help you return. A space built for stillness, for reflection, for the gentle work of being. In its name, Gassho, there is a gesture, two hands meeting in respect and gratitude, a gesture of unity between self and world, between heart and breath, between sound and silence. When you open the Gassho app, you are not entering another screen. You are stepping into a small temple that travels with you, a place where you can sit without expectation, breathe without demand, and listen without effort. Inside you will find guided meditations, stories inspired by Buddhist wisdom, and the steady presence of sutras, not as lessons, but as companions. The sound you are about to hear is one of those companions, a sound carried through generations, a sound shaped by breath, devotion, and time. You do not need to understand the words. You do not need to follow the rhythm. You do not need to stay awake for it. Let the sound arrive as it is. Let it move through awareness without resistance. Let it remain even as attention fades. There is nothing left to do, only to rest. Let the breath settle. Let the body sink, and simply listen. The sound of the sutra continues, offered from a temple in the quiet mountains of Koya-san, shared here through the Gassho app whenever you wish to return to silence.